Okay, today we're going to dig into a question that sounds, well, a little weird. Can you actually learn something valuable from someone who's famous for getting things wrong? We're going to dive headfirst into the world of educational YouTube, check out a formal study that says it works, and then meet a creator who seems to break all the rules of teaching. Let's get into it.
So, right off the bat, here's the big question. Can you actually learn geography by watching somebody fail at it? I know, it sounds totally backward, but trust me, the answer might just change how you think about learning altogether.
All right, let's start with the hard evidence. A recent academic study really looked into this, asking if YouTube can be a serious tool for learning geography. And you know what? The results were crystal clear. Using YouTube in the right way can give students a massive, massive boost. But then there's our case study. Jack Massey Welsh, the creative force behind the channel Jack Sucks at Geography. Now this channel is hugely popular. He makes geography fun and exciting, but here's the catch. He's not an expert. In fact, he's famous for being hilariously wrong a lot of the time.
So what is going on here? On one hand, you've got a study saying YouTube is a fantastic learning tool. And on the other, you have a creator who gets things wrong and it works. Today, we're going to untangle this paradox and explore how these two ideas come together to create a really powerful and surprising way to learn.
So first things first, let's look at the actual proof. Why are we even talking about this? Because the evidence for this method is pretty compelling. Think back to school. The study points out that in a typical classroom setting, subjects like geography can feel, well, kind of dry. Students just aren't that into it. But when you bring YouTube into the mix, something changes. Suddenly, you see way more enthusiasm, more motivation, and the learning outcomes actually get better. It's a total game changer.
And here's the data to back that up. Look at these numbers. The study had two groups. The conventional group learned the old-fashioned way, and yeah, their scores went up a bit. But look at the YouTube group. Their average score jumped from about a 4 to almost 7.5. That is a huge leap. That's not just a small improvement, it's a massive difference.
So we know the data says it works. But what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, let's go back to Jack. His channel has over 1.75 million subscribers. That's a mind-boggling number of people who are actively choosing to watch videos about geography in their free time. That alone is pretty incredible.
And this quote pretty much sums up why. His energy is just infectious. He's not just some boring lecturer. He gets genuinely excited about finding a new flag or learning a weird fact. That passion comes through the screen, and it makes you excited too.
Okay, but let's be real. It can't all be perfect, right? The research itself is quick to point out that this method has some serious flaws. So now let's flip the coin and look at the failures.
And yeah, there are definitely challenges. The study doesn't pull any punches here. A big one is reliability. I mean, anyone can upload a video about anything, which means a lot of the content out there is just plain wrong. Some of it, as the study puts it, is just garbage online material. And of course, there's a whole distraction rabbit hole which we've all fallen down. Jack is basically the walking, talking embodiment of this unreliability. There's this classic moment where he's trying to guess country flags, and he confidently says, "It must be the Libya flag, right?" Only to realize, oh no, it's Mauritania. It's hilarious for sure, but it also perfectly shows you can't just blindly trust what you're watching. And this isn't just a one-time thing. Getting flags wrong is like his whole brand. His fans find it endlessly entertaining, and it's become this running joke in the community. It's not a bug, it's a feature of his channel.
And here's another perfect example. One time he was trying to draw the Nicaraguan flag and ended up mashing together bits from 3 different flags from that region. It's funny, absolutely, but it really hammers home the point that he is not a flawless source of information.
So this is the big question, right? How can something so flawed, so imperfect, be so darn effective? This is where we put all the pieces together.
And the study gives us the answer. The key term here is supplementary material. The point isn't for YouTube to replace teachers or textbooks. No way. The idea is that it enhances them. It adds this visual, engaging, and frankly fun layer on top of traditional learning.
And you can see this idea in action when you read what his fans say about him. Look at this quote. People don't thank him for being a perfect, all-knowing professor. They thank him for the inspiration. He gets them curious and excited about geography, which is arguably even more important. So really, it's a 3-step process. First, Jack's personality and his fun videos spark your interest.
Then, when he inevitably makes a mistake, the community jumps into the comments to correct him, which creates this amazing interactive engagement. And that leads to the final step. It makes you want to go look up the right answer for yourself. You end up teaching yourself, all because it started with a funny mistake. So, let's zoom out. What's the big takeaway from all this? Why does any of this imperfect learning stuff actually matter?
Well, it might mean that we need to think a little differently about what the goal of education really is. Maybe it's not just about memorizing a bunch of facts to pass a test. Maybe the real goal is to light a fire, to spark a curiosity that makes someone want to keep learning for the rest of their life.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. If the true goal is to inspire that deep-seated curiosity, who's the better teacher? The expert who has all the answers, or the enthusiast whose mistakes make you want to find them? The answer might be a lot more interesting than you think.